Thank you very much, Ambassador Rae. You are nearing the end of this term in November. You have heard people on the outside say that the UN feels or seems ineffective. What do you think needs to change that perspective?
When we say UN, we mean two things. One is the organization, the Secretariat. The other one is all the member states. And sometimes we get those two things mixed up. I think what the organization can do is simply become more effective. It needs to be better in line with its real budget and better in line with what really needs to be done to get it to a better place. There's signs that's starting to happen more now, because actually nothing so jogs the mind than a massive cut such as we've seen from the US and many others. And so I think that's the first thing that needs to happen. The other thing is member states, we're living in a world where many member states simply don't respect the rule of law, they don't respect the charter, they don't respect the sort of foundational beliefs. And that's a real struggle. But the real strength of the UN, for all of its weaknesses and faults, the real strength of it is that it's the one place where everybody comes. There's nobody else that has the convening capacity of the United Nations when it's doing its job well. But it can always improve, and I think it's important for us to believe in the UN and want to support the UN and actually do a lot to fund the UN. We have an ongoing responsibility to make sure it's better run.
So in a way, the budget cuts, as you said, will focus the mind, like run a tighter ship, you think?
Yeah, and to stop duplicating it. There are so many different agencies, the alphabet agencies that everybody knows, that sometimes they all have a little tendency in their fiefdoms to do stuff that is in somebody else's lane and it gets in the way. So there's a lot that we can do to make the UN run more efficiently. The problem is we have more people in need, more people in trouble, and we have less countries that are really willing to step up. And so that gives us this gap between the need and what people are prepared to do. And that's a big gap that needs to be fixed.
You talked about the United States sort of pulling back in some ways budget-wise. We've seen it sort of pull back in terms of participation. What is the United Nations without the heft of U.S. involvement of the past?
Well, I mean, those of us who are a coalition of the willing as far as the UN is concerned have to figure out how can we strengthen the institutions. And by the way, the United States has not left. They've reduced, they've said we're going to refocus, but they know the advantage to them of having a stronger UN. And at some point, those two ideas are going to connect again.
Where does this leave a country like Canada, a middle power? I remember a time when Canada was called the Samaritan nation. You think about its work in Ethiopia. What's its reputation now?
Well, I mean, I'm biased. I've been here for 5 years, so I'd say the reputation is getting better all the time. That'd be easy for me to say. But I think the big point is that we've all had to learn is it's not what you do alone, it's what you do together. And it's our ability to connect with a lot of countries. And that, I think, is a strength that we have always had and that we've certainly been playing on very strongly in the last while, looking at how can we lead on Haiti, how can we lead on the issue of children in Ukraine, where can we pick our spots to be effective with other countries. And I think that's been a consistent thing that Canada has done.
A last thought here. Your successor, David Lametti, is starting in November. What do you wish someone had told you at the outset of this? And what do you think he's about to walk into?
The UN is one of the most incredible, not just talking places, but it's one of the best listening places. The private conversations you have with people from countries that you don't normally talk to, or perhaps you're having a fight with. How can you use those personal relationships to make you a good listener? And I think that's one of the things that makes you a better uniter, if you like, or a better person who can work with others, is learning really how to listen. And I think for me, I think probably many members of my family would say that's still a work in progress.
Ambassador Rae, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.